Okay, the topic of today's video is going to be how to overcome your fear of failure. Before we get into that, quickly, if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell. All other social media platforms, like, comment, share with your friends. I need your validation to feel accepted. I need it because it makes me feel whole. Okay, how to overcome your fear of failure. That's pretty hard. It's it's hard to overcome your fear of failure, and I think it's so hard that you actually never do. Like, I'm still afraid to fail. I still don't feel good when something that I try doesn't work. I still feel bad when I get rejected. I feel bad when I put a ton of effort and time into something and it doesn't pan out. So, the way that I deal with failure is basically at this point, I just try to weigh the risk and reward and I kind of put myself in the position of what it would feel like to actually fail and, see if I can handle it. Because I've been through things that didn't work before. Like one time I tried to create a product. It was like an email course and it had like 30 motivational tips or something like that. Tried to charge for it. I sent it out to my email list at the time and it got zero sales. And when I tell you that hurt, like that was one of those type of crushing blows that almost made me want to quit. Like it really, it didn't feel good. I was depressed for a few days. I didn't write for a few days. That was probably the longest span of time where I didn't write or do anything towards my business, where I hit a real stalling point after I launched that product and sold nothing. So I kind of use that as a reference point. Like next time I want to attempt something, I'm like, okay, you already know what it would feel like to get zero sales. And that's probably the worst possible outcome of anything you're trying to do anyways. So I asked myself, like, can you emotionally handle it? Like, can you handle a product launch where it flops? And then I think to myself and I'm like, okay, while it would be very ego bruising and very deflating, I actually could handle it. And oftentimes we have so much of an overactive imagination about what we think is going to happen if something doesn't go the way we want it to. But sometimes it actually helps to use like negative visualization. Like actually think about what would happen if you tried something and you failed or you got rejected or it didn't work out. Like actually put yourself into the shoes of the worst possible scenario that could occur. And usually the worst possible scenario that could occur is, hurt feelings, being butthurt, having a bruised ego. And don't get me wrong, those fears are very palpable, but in a tangible sense, like you should be able to deal with getting your ego bruised because it's not going to physically harm you. It's not going to kill you. The cliche, the Nietzsche quote, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You can become more resilient. So basically, my entire process of trying to be successful or try new things now is to often just realize what the worst outcome is. And I usually come to the conclusion that it's me getting my little feelings hurt. Oh, poor Io, it didn't work out. And even kind of mock it a little bit. Like, I kind of think to myself, like, oh, poor Io, you launched the product and it didn't work. Oh, my little feelings, my little feels, they hurt so bad. Like, that's kind of all that's really at risk. So on the one hand, fear is very strong and palpable. But then on the other hand, it's kind of this silly, goofy ass thing to even be worried about, like your little feelings. Like you're a grown up. Little kids should be worried about their little feelings. I have a toddler. She cries like a little baby because she is one. Like I'm grown. I shouldn't do that, right? So that's one way to reframe things. And then in terms of what you could have to lose, like some things you might have to invest money into and just never invest an amount of money that you're not willing to lose. So I'm putting together my next book and, I'm probably going to invest a couple $1,000s into it, like really put some effort into it. But I've looked at the possible scenarios, and the odds of me selling 0 books, like, that's not going to happen. The odds of my sales being underwhelming, that could happen. The odds of me kind of breaking even could happen. The odds of it really taking off could also happen. So I put all of my effort into trying to get it to take off, but I'm not going to sack my whole career if it doesn't become this wild bestseller. So that's the point. The more you kind of work, and that's why I always go back to work. Like, the more you work, everything looks real scary on that first step. Everything looks scary on that first step. Then 2, 3, 4. Once you're on like the 12th step, you're not going to be like worried about quitting anymore. You're not going to be worried about being an abject failure after you ladder up. So, like I've always said, the hardest part is the beginning. And another way that I kind of avoid fear of failure is just kind of take an attitude of, I'm just testing things out. I'm just seeing what's going to happen, right? I started a YouTube channel. I have no goals for this YouTube channel. None. I don't know what it's going to turn into. I just said that I want to try it, that it's something I've been telling myself that I was going to do, telling other people. And, I was being full of crap. And I'm like, all right, start your channel. You don't have fancy equipment. You don't have a studio. Start your channel. See what happens. Then next, I'll start a podcast. I'll see what happens. I'll post on social media. I'll see what happens. I'll launch books. I'll see what happens. I'll try to create new products. I'll see what happens. I'll try to get booked for speaking gigs. I'll see what happens. I'll try to build an audience and connect with you. I'll see what happens. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. Maybe I'll get comments from trolls telling me that I suck and that I should quit. Whole different range of possibilities, but really I'm not really resting my ego and my identity on this, or even my work in general anymore. Like, I want to be successful. I don't want to fail. But basically at this point, I'm just taking the attitude of like, this is all an experiment. I'm just testing to see what works. And any real scientist often gets closer to the truth by doing experiments that go wrong. So like, you're never going to know what's going to go wrong or right unless you run the experiment. There's a business guru kind of guy, Jim Rohn, who says, I try things because even if I know they're not going to work, like, I want to find out quicker. I don't just want to be sitting there wondering, wishing, going through all this anxiety in your mind about whether or not it's going to work. And that's the messed up thing. Like, you want to avoid pain, so you don't actually do the thing and you don't get to experience that failure. But at the same time, you're already experiencing the pain and anxiety of living below your potential and wanting to do all of these things and going back and forth and back and forth. Oftentimes, just doing it is a lot easier than doing the mental back and forth. So just treat life like an experiment and see what you can get out of it. I don't know if you can eliminate your fear of failure, but you can get close by just taking the attitude that you're testing things out and seeing what happens. Okay, end of the video. If you haven't gotten the book, you can check it out here on Amazon U2.0. If you haven't liked or subscribed, comment, please do. I'll be posting new videos almost daily, so let's keep this thing going.